Hello, everyone, and welcome or welcome back if you are returning. My name is Addie, and here on our live streams, we have Abbie with us from Uproot Brushes.
Hi.
And Abbie and I go through different Procreate projects, tips, and tricks that you can use. And in today's video, we are the long awaited brush making part 3 video. We are going to be showing you how to make uh, brushes in Procreate out of things that you've painted. So we're first going to be working with paint and paper to create some watercolor splashes and shapes and what word am I thinking of? Marks that you can then take a photo or a scan of and create a Procreate brush with that. So the first portion of this tutorial, we're going to be working with paint and paper, and then we will move to the iPad. We'll set aside what we've painted initially, and we'll be following with some of the freebies that we have available to download. So Abbie created some shapes and scanned them in advance. And so we'll be working with those for the next session while what we've painted dries. And in that section, we'll be showing you how to actually make the shape source, how to edit the image that we either took from a photo, and in this case scans. And then after we've made the stamp brushes, we will circle back to what we painted, and Abbie will also be showing us how to make a background texture brush that you can use to just add more watercolor effects overall to your painting, and that'll be like a repeating pattern brush. Did I get all of it?
Yeah, you did. Cool.
Okay. And
Okay.
while we get set up here, feel free to pop in where you are joining us from. And if you're following along or planning to follow along at your own pace later.
Okay, so let me show you some that I did before. So what we're going to be making is just some general marks and splashes and squiggles and patches of color using the watercolor paint. Just to show you that there's no need for perfection. In fact, just go with the flow and see where it takes you. Experimentation is actually the best way to get some really fun and interesting marks. As you can see here, I did this on my kitchen table, and my youngest son, who's 13, was standing there splashing away and carrying on with me. So there's literally no rules at this point. It's all about making interesting marks. These were all made by Simon, my 13-year-old. He showed me how to make really good splattery things using a technique that he showed me. I'll show you that as we go. Okay.
Many thanks to Simon. Love the teenager assist.
Exactly. So what I like to do is I go and get a whole lot of different watercolor papers. You can find them at the dollar store. You can go to the art shop. You can even find them at the grocery shop. They sometimes have an art section, and you can find a pad of watercolor paper. So just sort of become a little bit of a hoarder and scrounge little scratches of paper from everywhere so that you get a variety of textures. And then I just cut them into rectangles that are not too big, because it's and then you don't waste paper. And let's start with this one at the back. Oh, hang on, I was going to start with this one. This sort of, I'm not sure if you can see the texture. It's got a sort of weird,
like a grid.
Toilet paper. Yeah, like toilet papery kind of texture.
Yeah.
And what's nice about textured paper is that the paint will react with the paper and pool in the little holes. So you get that added texture in these shapes. And the paint that I'm using is just some Japanese watercolor that I got from eBay. Very cheap, nothing spectacular or expensive. Okay, and my brushes are just ordinary old brushes. This isn't This isn't any like special Winsor and Newton stuff we're doing. And you'll notice that I've got 2 bottles of water. The one I'm going to keep clean and the one I'm going to rinse the brushes in. That will become dirty. Yeah, sorry.
I am
interrupted you.
using Winsor and Newton, but I'm using their Cotman line,
Yeah?
which is, I think, their student line. So again,
Oh,
super
okay.
cheap. I think, especially when you're just giving yourself space to like,
Yes, make a mess.
yeah, it's important to not be stressed about the
Yeah.
quality of what you're doing. You just need to like create without those limits. And
Yes.
yeah, using cheap supplies can be a great way to give yourself
Yeah.
that space.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is wet a patch on the paper. Let's see here. You see that little patch is wet.
Oh, yes.
So that allows the pigment that you put onto that to seep all over that little patch that you've made.
Before we get further, I wanted to pop in. Margot asked about the link for the brushes. I dropped a Dropbox link in chat. It's also the first link in the video description. So if you're watching the replay or you don't have chat on your device, that is where you can find it. It is the first Dropbox link.
There we go. And you can see how the paint is walking along the water that we put down earlier.
And you can already
get-
see the paper texture under the
Yeah.
pigment.
You can add as much or as little water as you like. And then we're just going to carry on playing and see what other shapes we can make. You'll notice I'm using this very dark blue, and you'll see in this palette that the very dark blue is the one that's been used the most frequently. The reason for that is that I find that blue has got a much better tonal range than black, because when I use black, I'll show you something done with black. Excuse me. Black seems to not have as many midtones, so that's why I prefer working with the blue.
And that is particularly important with Procreate because the brush making and like the brush shape is all done in grayscale.
Yeah.
So having that range of mid-tones
Exactly.
is more helpful for the texture. So I chose a blue that is turning out to be much brighter than I remember. But we're going to go with it and see here. I will pop in quick if this is okay, if I'm not interrupting your flow. So I have these, it was like a little pad of these tiny sheets. So that's what I'm
cool.
starting with here, but it's a very bright blue. And so I guess this is an experiment. We'll see.
That's awesome.
There we go.
Let's do just one more on this pad.
So it looks like the first one you did as a square, but now you're more doing organic shapes.
Yeah, I'm just wild in here.
All right.
Okay. Move that off to the side and grab another piece of paper. I think this one is a smoother one. This one doesn't have any texture. And now I'm going to make a few blobs that will have a seeping feathering effect that you can scan and use for that purpose. So I'm going to cover the whole sheet of paper with water. It's very difficult to see where the water is and where it isn't from the side.
Yeah. Maybe if we had like a flashlight or
yes, exactly.
or a torch, I suppose you call them. Yeah, it is tough to see in the camera, but I'm curious, is there like a layer of water sitting on top, or have you just put enough that it's like sunk into the paper?
I haven't really saturated it so that there's a bubble of water, but there is enough
Okay.
that hopefully it's going to seep out from the center. Let's see. Oh, there, it's doing it. Can you see when the paper is wet, the pigment makes those like octopus legs out?
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's very cool. My goodness, we have people joining us from Colorado and Texas and Alaska, Indonesia, Quebec.
Awesome.
Let's see if I got everything. Sheila says, it's blooming. Yes. I
And
love
then
too that it changes as it dries.
It does. It's very cool. And another thing you can do is once you've got your paint down, you can drop plain water on and it adds other stuff to it.
This is my husband. He says he's watching from Chicago.
Yay! Hello. Oh, this one isn't doing it so nicely because it's seeped in a bit. Okay, we'll let that one dry. Let's find another piece of paper. Hang on, where's one that I haven't used? There's one. This one I believe is this one is definitely from the dollar store. I recognize it.
Okay. It's very cool to see these textures. I love when I have every texture, paper texture pack that Abbie has released, and it's fun to recognize some of these papers
Yeah.
from brushes
Yeah.
that you've made. Ooh,
I'm a bit
Seoul,
of a paper texture hoarder. Oh,
San Francisco.
cool.
You know, it's tough to find a time for this. I feel like we always leave out at least one continent
I think
when
the
trying to
UK
coordinate.
The UK
Yeah.
is the place that they miss out, which is unfortunate.
Ronald from Peru. I always wanted to go
Oh,
to Peru.
awesome. Peru. That is right.
All of these places I've wanted to visit.
Yeah, same.
So when you make brushes, is it always starting from a painted source, or do you do like 50-50, or does it totally depend on what you are making brushes for?
It depends. I think if I'm making something that I know I want to emulate a real life thing, then I always go and use the real life thing. So if I'm making oils, I work with oils first. If I'm making something that's risograph, then I go and I look for risograph prints that I can scan and use. So yeah, if it's a real thing, then I find the real thing. But if it's a fake thing like shape stamps or lettering brushes, then I just go and make my own stuff.
Yeah, that's a good time for me to insert a promo for your upcoming brush pack of 3D
Ooh.
brushes.
With
September?
Jimbo. Yes,
Is it
I
what?
think
Okay.
September is when we're aiming for.
Keep an eye out because they look amazing. But that I would figure is something that you start with shapes
Yeah.
just digitally.
Yes, those took me a very long time. I felt old in this space for the first time because I was just like I was trying to make 3D shapes in Blender, and I asked my 17-year-old to please help me with that because he's a Blender wizard. And
Because you print things that you've designed in Blender, right? Or he does?
he makes the things in Blender. I use much simpler software because I
Okay.
can't with Blender. Blender is like, you need a doctorate in something to understand Blender. It's full on.
Yeah.
And he's shown me multiple times, and every time I come back and I'm just like, Murray, I don't understand. Please help me again.
The thing that gets me is when tools aren't universal or icons aren't universal, and that I found was hard for me with Blender.
Have you ever opened Blender? There are about a bajillion tools just everywhere, and you don't know what the hell they all mean.
Yeah.
It's a real challenge for my
because
menopausal brain.
You can animate in it, right?
Yeah,
there's so much you can do.
Simon is animating all sorts of stuff in Blender. He's made like spaceships that attack each other and stuff, and my brain can't even make a single sphere with a shadow on it.
Yeah, that's so impressive. That also makes me feel old.
Okay, I'm going to show you his technique for making those splashes. So you get a brush and you saturate it a lot with your water and pigment, and this is going to make a huge mess, so don't do this anywhere that's, you know, precious to you. So you're going to, your view's probably going to be blocked by me. Okay, maybe I can do it like this. So you put the paintbrush just above the paper and you blow really hard onto the paintbrush like this. And then it makes a nice splash.
Okay,
so I'm not going to do that again because I got paint in my mouth, but the idea is there. Other techniques are just making it go like this.
Is the key with the blowing trick having it really loaded?
Yes, it must be absolutely drenched.
Okay. Ooh. That does
Did it go in your mouth too?
It did not go in my mouth. I was quite careful.
You're winning. You're definitely winning.
But I also didn't get as much splatter, I think, because of that. Here, I'll show you quick. Oh, now that's in focus. So that's how much smaller mine was because I was
cool. Oh, I love the ones that are next to it on the table.
Oh yeah,
Those are awesome.
I'm trying not to make a mess because I didn't put paper down.
Okay,
you're smart to have
so last one I'm going to do is for when we make a full page texture kind of brush. So let's find a texture that I like. This one.
Oh, this is such a good suggestion. Would it work with canned air? I think it totally would. I have a can of air here. Let me try it.
What is a can of air? They can air in America?
It is. It's to clean your electronics. Sorry. And focus. So it's just for that. You definitely don't want to inhale it.
Okay. Got it.
So here, let me see if I can. Oh wow!
I need a can of air, people. Sheila,
awesome.
You're a genius. That is very clever. Okay, now I need some canned air.
That was very startling. I don't know what else I expected, but... Okay, so what are you doing now?
Oh, I'm covering the whole sheet with water. And then I'm going to just drop pigment onto it so that I can make a full page of texture for the background texture brush that we'll make later.
Okay.
This is...
So in doing this, are you trying to have like a modeled coverage? Like lots of highs and lows?
Yes, sort of lots of pigment and lots of not pigment, if you know what I mean. Exactly as you described, highs and lows. It's a much better way of putting it.
Okay.
This might not be the best one ever, but
Leanne asks, how about the puffer we use to clean the camera lens? If I'm imagining what you're describing, the like it's got like the rubber bulb
Oh,
and then a
yes, that
spout. I
might
think that would
work.
work really well too, and is infinitely reusable, unlike the canned
The
air.
turkey baster thing, is that what
Yeah.
you mean?
Yes, exactly like that.
Okay, now I'm just gonna do some drops so that there's a bit of those blooms happen. Because what happens when you drop water into the pigment is it makes a little bloom outwards, and the edges of where that water is flowing form a little crinkly edge. I don't know if you can see it very clearly here. I was hoping it would happen, but this might be too wet. There. Can you see it happening there?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hope that this dries in time, because
This would
it
also
is
be.
pretty saturated.
I forgot to grab it because this thought was one of those like when you're falling asleep thoughts. But using salt is a great way to add
Oh,
texture
yes.
too.
Yes, in some of the scanned images that are in the freebies, I did use salt.
Oh, good. And let me drop the link again, just in case anybody missed it. You can download these freebies. It includes a bunch of pages of scanned watercolor that Abbie did, and also template brushes, or a template brush and paper texture brushes as a fun bonus. So definitely download those.
Okay, last one. Let's just do a super quick one. With less color and more water.
So the scans, I believe Abbie had said that they are like 400 DPI, so they're really high
Yes.
quality. But when we do circle back, Abbie will show us how to just take a picture as well, because not everybody has
Yes,
access to a scanner.
Yeah.
And the main difference is that for making the like stamp brushes, the higher quality allows you to have a larger size range.
Yeah. So
That's
you
really like
can-
the main factor.
Exactly. So you can size it down dramatically, but you can never size a picture up, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh,
That's
that looks
as
really
as that one's
good.
gonna get. Let's do some dribbling. Okay. Right. Got a bit of a wet crisis going on my desk. But anyway. Hang on.
Here, I'll remove that so you can clean up in peace.
Okay.
Yeah, I got paint splattering all over here. Oh my goodness.
Okay, if I take a sip of paint water, just warn me.
Yeah,
'Cause I
as long
have
as as long as the paint water is transparent, or
Yeah,
like the
it's-
cup
it's
is,
good.
I mean,
Yeah.
then we'll know. If you're drinking out of mugs, we have a problem.
Okay,
All
hang
right.
on, let me just turn my iPad on. It doesn't know my face. This iPad is the most diabolical thing ever. It's not great for your self-confidence when your iPad keeps telling you, I don't know who you are. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wonder, does it accumulate over time?
I'm hoping one day it'll look at me and it'll go, oh, welcome back. But until then, who knows? Okay, so what you need to do is make yourself a square canvas. So I have this favorite canvas that I've labeled favorite square. It's 3000 by 3000 pixels. It's ample size and it allows you enough layers to fart around with. Okay, and we're going to import a photo from my album, Scanned Watercolors, which these are the scans that I've prepared for you.
Yes.
And let's choose this one here. Okay, and you see it just inserts it like that. Before you close out the transformation tool when it inserts it, resize it so that the stamp that you're going to make is right in the middle and really big. So
Okay.
let's maybe make this splash here. Okay.
And that's because it's kind of in like a limbo space before
Yes.
you exit the transform tool,
Yes.
right? So the quality is
Yes.
higher.
Yes. So if you exit the transform tool, you commit to that size and that number of pixels. But if you make it bigger before, then you still get some of the resolution from the original image. Okay. And obviously we don't want this here, and we don't want any of these splashy bits that are extra. So I'm going to go to the select and we'll go freehand select. And then we can just very casually decide what we want in our brush and what we don't want in our brush. Okay, so that's what we've chosen, but we don't want what's outside of it. So invert the selection.
Okay.
And then tap it, the layer, and then just tap clear, and it'll be gone. And now you can still see there's some gray here where that edge ends, and that's going to show up in your stamp. And you don't want that sort of clean line that looks man-made. So we're going to go into the curves setting.
Okay.
And you just add a bit of white by sliding the top right node just a little bit to the left. And
Is there any way that you can zoom in the camera or your phone to see your screen closer?
Yes, I can.
And while you do that, we have a question. At what resolution should we scan?
The resolution that is the highest resolution you can before it gets irritating. So my scanner goes all the way to 1200 DPI, but if I scan at 1200 DPI, it takes about 4 minutes to scan, and I don't have 4 minutes in my life to waste on scanning. So I do it at 400 DPI because I get a really nice clean scan without the irritation.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of describing it because it's balancing out how high a quality you want with how much time you're willing to spend waiting for it or processing the files. Because even after it's scanned, moving it from your computer to your iPad takes that extra time when it's that larger file.
And also you don't want to have absolutely massive files on your iPad because there's only so much space you have on your iPad.
Yes.
Sorry, my phone is not level and it's bothering me. I'm one of those people that will straighten pictures on your wall if they skew. So, okay.
I would imagine also if you ever play card games, you're probably always straightening the piles of cards.
Exactly. If they're all falling all over the place, how rude. Okay, so in the curve setting, it would have come in like this. So just scooch that over a little bit to this is left. I'm terrible with left and right. My children say on my side of the car or your side of the car. So, okay, that actually looks good. Okay, we can go out of that. And then I've prepared a stamp brush template for you so that you can easily make stamp brushes. But I'm going to show you how to make it from scratch, and then I'll show you how to make it from the template. So if you want to make a new brush, you press this plus here and it immediately opens the interface. And because it's a stamp brush, we want it to be maximum spacing.
Okay.
And the next thing that you always do when you're making a stamp brush is you'll go to the pencil tab and stop the opacity from being influenced by the brush pressure, because you want it to come out the same every time.
And these are settings that every time you create a new
Yes.
brush, that comes through.
Yes. If every time you create a new brush, the default will always be on maximum influence on opacity, but just scooch it back to 0. Then go to properties, and the default is always on the size is always pretty low, so bump it up to max so that you can have the biggest brush that you can. And the last one is rendering, and we want it to be on light glaze so that we can leverage the full spectrum of tones inside that stamp. Because if it's on any of the others, you'll get a really dark stamp and you won't actually be able to see all the nice texture you've created.
Okay. That's a very important tip.
And then we can put in our shape. So here's the shape that we've made. And we're going to go over here to the little wrench and go, make sure it's on the Add tab and tap Copy Canvas. And then you open up your brush that you're making and tap Edit above the shape and tap Import and Paste. And now you'll see that the shape is black and the background is white, but we want it to be background black, shape white. So take 2 fingers and tap like that.
Amazing.
Okay. And then you're done. There's your shape. Okay, and let's test that baby out. Let's pick a nice blue. Yay! It works.
Yes.
It works pretty well.
Can you zoom in on the canvas? Oh my gosh, look at that. Rich texture.
It works really well. And then let's make another one to use with the template
Yes.
brush. I can show you how that goes. So we'll go Insert Photo. Let's find one like this one. This might be a bit more difficult to cut out because it's got these little smoochy edges. But I want this little bit here. Okay. Let's grab the selection tool.
I love this, whatever the shape is.
Yeah, it's like a whole lot of nesting kittens. So I did freehand select and invert so that I can clear the outside. Tapped here, tapped clear. Okay, and you can see here there's a really dark edge there. So maybe it might be worthwhile grabbing the soft airbrush from Procreate's airbrush thing. Oh no, on eraser, I rather want it to be the eraser. And just erasing a little bit there so that it softens it up a little bit. Otherwise it could look pretty sudden. Okay, and then we can go to curves. Just make the edges disappear.
And there's a lot of fun things you can do to manipulate the image further. So even just within curves, you can drag the bottom slider to increase the low lights, which...
Yep, you can make the dark bits darker. You can make the mid-tones lighter. You can make the whole thing more gray.
Yeah.
But I find that when you're making a stamp, the easiest way to get rid of that gray halo is to just increase the white in the top left corner. Right, right, Abigail, right. Okay, and then let's copy the canvas so that we've got the shape copied. And here's the stamp brush template. And open it, go to the shape, go to edit, import, paste. And because in the previous iteration of this brush, the shape had already been inverted, this one came in inverted already.
Yes.
Okay. How cool is that?
That looks so good.
The other one. And I mean, we've already got a little bit of watercolor painting going.
I love this. And so I wanted to talk about some of the ways that you can use stamp brushes too.
Yeah.
Because it's a little different than using just like a watercolor brush. So let me pop over here, make sure you can see. I know it's a little dark. Let me see if I can brighten it just a smidge. Wrong way. Okay.
Looks good.
So I just used one of Abbie's scans, and one of my favorite ways to use stamp brushes, especially in watercolor, is as an overlay to something that you painted. So using a blend mode that'll allow it to pass through the non-painted areas of your canvas. So let me quick grab just like a watercolor painting brush. And I don't have a paper texture down, so it's going to be lacking that, but that will hopefully emphasize more.
Your most recent set has got some of the nicest watercolor brushes I've ever used.
Oh my gosh,
are
stop.
Lovely. I love them because they're so organic. You've done an amazing job with them.
Thank you. That is so very nice of you.
That is the Mess Makers brush set, available on Design Cats.
Thank you. Abbie, of course, is the watercolor queen, so that is very, very kind of you. So what I've done here is I've added a new layer above what I painted and set the blend mode to multiply. And then with the stamp brush, or maybe not multiply, sorry, let's do, multiply and make it a clipping mask. That's what I'm doing. So this way it'll limit everything to what I've painted underneath. And this then increase the size. And at a really big size, it just adds like overall texture. And then at a smaller size, you'll see more of the shape, but if you're using multiple different ones, you can layer them and have it look like actual splatters and more of that. If you've like painted something, let it dry and then paint it again on top of it, more of that look. So that's one way. Alternatively, I did a mushroom video using stamp brushes, and what I did was I had a sketch and then I would stamp and use the transform tool on warp. Advanced mesh just gives you more nodes to pull, so depending on like how detailed but also how much distortion you're planning for, you can choose between them. And then I would just like morph this shape using the warp tool into what I wanted really cool. To. And then you can also use liquify to like further fine tune, and that allows you to keep some of that edge texture. There is of course going to be some unnatural distortion with warp and liquify, but it allows you to maintain at least some of that texture.
That's a really lovely tip. I love that. I've never done that before.
Yeah. The overlay version where I had them on the multiply layer is somewhat similar to the effect that we will be doing with the full page that you drew or painted.
This one is, okay, I suppose it's dry enough now. That's as good as it's going to get in this limited amount of time.
Okay. Well, if it needs a little more time, we have a couple questions. If you want to give it more time to breathe. Okay.
Let's carry on with it, and then we can do questions afterwards. Okay. So, I'm not sure if you have used this before, but you can take a photograph inside Procreate. So, hang on, let me just unlock. Hey, it recognized me. Hi, Will. Okay, so up here at the wrench tool, you go take a photo. And just FYI, you have to actually go into your settings and enable it, because for ages I was thinking, oh, my iPad is broken, it's not taking photos, but I just hadn't enabled it. It was just me being dumb. Okay.
It makes sense that it's that extra step, and once you do enable it, you can also turn photos into color palettes.
Yes,
there's a lot
you
of
can.
cool functionality with that, so it's definitely
Okay, I'm trying to find a way I can show you. I'm taking the picture without. Okay, let's get it like that. Right. Let's move my damp little friend over here. Okay, and I'm going to use the photo. So it's popped it in now. And now, because I don't want these, maybe I don't want those edges, I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay, and I don't want it to be color. I want it to be grayscale. So I'm going to head up here to hue, saturation, and brightness and zap that all the way off. Okay, now I don't want this edge here either. So I'm going to enlarge it to that size and there.
Ooh.
Right. Yeah, that looks okay. And let's maybe give it a little bit of brightness because it's a bit dingy. Yep, that looks good. And now to make the background texture brush, let's start a new brush. And we want to make sure that our Apple Pencil is not doing the opacity thing. We also want to make sure that the brush is at the biggest it can be and that the rendering is at light glaze. And then we're going to go into the grain, and that's where we're going to put this image that we just made. So let's go back to our image and copy the canvas. Okay. And then open the brush, and here in the grain source, we are going to paste the grain source. And now it's not going to repeat perfectly yet. It's just going to look garbage. So what we need to do is go and do auto repeat. And as soon as you tap auto repeat, it lays it out for you in a way that's going to repeat perfectly, and it makes the edges blur together. And you have a little bit of control down here about how big the image is and where it's orientated in that pattern. So you can make it a bit bigger if you like. You can make it a bit, then after that you can move it around if a different patch is somewhere that you prefer. Or you can make it back to how it was. I think that is fine. Okay. And then press done, and it will commit that texture. And here you'll see that it's at 25% scale. So let's go and paint with it and see if that scale suits us. No, it looks garbage. So let's go back in and make it quite a lot bigger. Let's maybe even make it a bit bigger.
So this is a case where you would probably want that higher quality, larger size,
Yes.
because you're taking such a small portion of it.
Yeah, exactly. But this isn't actually bad. This is pretty
It's
good.
incredible quality.
Yeah.
And you have so that'll depend on the camera that you're using and the
Yeah.
iPad model, if you're taking it directly on your iPad, is yours the 2020 or 2021
And it's
iPad?
the one that's got this kind of, oh, look how dirty I am.
Oh, no.
It's got this kind of camera at the back. This is because I'm always drawing and stuff at my desk, and then I make a mess and I just put my iPad straight down on it. Like,
Yep.
you probably shouldn't.
When we're mixing the real paint and the digital,
Yeah, exactly.
it's prime for that.
So
I think that's the
how you
M1 iPad for
Yes,
anybody
I think
wondering.
so. So that's how you make your own background thing. So we can actually maybe do it with one of the scanned images too. Let's go and get one of these. So these ones will be good because they sort of have square patches of smush.
Oh. Oh, yeah.
So let's make that one nice and big. Can leave the edges a little bit because they'll disappear when that does that auto
That's
repeat.
smart.
Let's make a little bit of brightness here. Okay. Oops. Then let's copy the canvas. And then once you've made one of these brushes, you don't have to go back and make it again. You can just duplicate it. Boink. And go back to the grain. Edit, import, paste. So this is now going to make all of this white part black. So let's invert that and make it the opposite. Let's do auto repeat. Wow, mind blown, beautiful. Okay. Okay, and let's see how this one turned out. That's the angels.
Oh, that looks amazing.
That
looks so
really,
good.
really good. So you
then-
can make a whole variety of different patterns and textures and stuff and just layer them into your painting work. Or do as you did earlier. Let's alpha lock this and make it a dark gray. And then turn it to color burn. And then everything you paint underneath it will have that texture. Where's my watercolor brushes? Here.
And this is a good time to show this message from Sheila. She says she has several watercolor sets and Uproot is her favorite.
Yay! So see, you can see the influence of the texture above. There.
An incredible difference that makes.
Yeah.
Holy wow. So can you show us what that looks like with the paper texture brushes that you have included?
Okay. So I gave you 2 paper texture brushes here. They are dollar store paper. And the way that you use them is you pick white and you fill the page. And then you set it to overlay. And then there's one for the darker bits of the paper, which is linear burn. And you get another layer and you fill the page and you set it to linear burn. And then I always drop the opacity on these just to give it a bit more subtlety.
Yeah.
And then you can see the paper texture in the work below.
It looks so good.
Yeah.
It's just tons of instant texture.
If you would like, I can turn this these 2 into template brushes and include them in the freebie.
Yeah. I think I think everybody would love that. I know I would. I'll use them. And will you just pop them into the same folder?
Yeah, I'll just pop them in the same folder. So the link will remain the same, I think.
Yes. Perfect. Let's get to a couple questions and then tips here as well, because there have been some really great suggestions in chat. So first thing, from Susan, how do you scan where it doesn't wash out the texture of the paper? You scan artwork but lose the texture when doing so. I think that this primarily depends on your scanner settings.
Yeah.
So
If I'm scanning paper, I scan it I dial back the contrast, and I dial back there's one setting called gamma. I'm not really sure what that does, but it makes the whole thing go gray, and it catches every little ripple in the paper, so that I can take this sort of grubby gray image, and then I can fiddle with it and keep the texture in editing later.
Yeah, I know it's easier to blow out an image to white than it is to like regain any texture. And so starting from a darker point is usually best. It might look way too dark, but it's probably easier to lighten it up.
Yeah, yeah. Because you actually want to make sure that you have captured the information from the scan, because if you make it too bright, you're actually not getting the information that to fiddle with afterwards. You actually at least have to have it there so that you can adjust it.
Yes, there has to be pixels.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. And then Leanne had this good point. If the texture is too high resolution, lower RAM iPads may not be able to use it. So that goes to asking what DPI or size you should scan in. And it might even cause Procreate to crash when you try to import. I think I've tried to import a video file to do like animation, and it did totally crash. Yeah. So a good thing to note there.
Something that I've found helpful is if you have your images saved to Dropbox, they're not saved locally on your iPad. So if you import, in Procreate you can import, you can import from, it says, instead of insert photo, you choose insert file, and then you can navigate to your Dropbox or your iCloud. It's this one at the top.
Yeah.
And you can pick a photo that is saved, that isn't locally saved. So you can import a photo that might be too overwhelming for your iPad, but because you've imported it straight to there, it doesn't frazzle your memory.
Yes.
Frazzle and then your memory being a technical terminology.
And it even can link up if you have iCloud set up, so that you don't actually have to store all of the scans on your device. You can have them remotely. Download them. And then Leanne had this great tip that there's a scanner built into the Notes app on your iPad. So I'm going to see if I can add my
camera icon. Not sure if that's better than trying manual focus.
So I was going to see if we can walk through those steps to see what that looks like. So I have just a new note open, and when I tap the camera, scan documents, and then let's see. Okay. So this is cool because
it's a page.
Oh,
it's catching
not
it.
In focus.
How clever!
Oh, it's already. I'm not doing anything. It's just doing it. Okay, but you can change it to grayscale within here. And I would assume that you can adjust. Maybe, I don't know. It's just going. It seems.
You can have so many pictures of the same thing.
Okay.
Then?
I'm not sure if I love this quality, though. And that might have just been the distance that I was from the... Maybe it's just not in focus. Okay, let's see if I can get it to... No. Okay. You might need to fuss around with it, and probably doing it live in real time is not the best way to learn. But I think that's a really good tip, especially knowing that you can change it to grayscale automatically. And probably for something bigger as well, if you're working with a big piece of paper. Let's see. Oh, and here's another good tip. Use your phone scanner if it has a better camera than your iPad.
Yes.
Because they do tend to upgrade the iPhone, or I think Samsung has really good phones or cameras too.
In the next iOS update, you're going to be able to use your phone as your webcam. So you can hook it to the top of your computer and use it as your webcam instead of the garbage camera that your laptop has.
Yes.
I mean, not your laptop. I mean,
mine does have a garbage
laptop.
camera. Mine, I think it's like 720p, which that's tough. Oh yeah, and Sheila says the phone might be easier to hold steady. Totally. Absolutely. Yeah, they tend to upgrade those cameras more quickly. I'm fascinated by all of the webcam developments that have come out of living through the pandemic and all of the working from home.
I actually nearly bought an application that would allow me to use my phone as a webcam, but it was so complicated to set up that I just thought, this is nonsense, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've gone through several apps, the free version before they make you access the features with the subscription, and it is complicated. It's too much. I think I have gotten all of the questions. Oh, wait, here we go. How often do you move your created pictures in Procreate into Dropbox? I have not generally backed up to my Dropbox account. I usually, when I do a backup, do it to my iCloud. So
yeah, same.
When I back up, not as often as I should, I usually back up before I do either a large iPad operating system update or a Procreate update. Those are the only times that I do. Because there's always the risk when you're running an update that something could happen and you could lose your artwork and your brushes.
Yeah. I back up all of my brushes to Dropbox, but not the artwork. Somehow I'm less precious about that, which is weird. I should probably.
Yeah. I tend to back up my stacks once a year when Procreate updates. And I see here, Sheila, this is amazing that you save a Procreate version as you make them. I would love to someday be on that level.
Sheila, you're organized and I like it.
Yes.
I just updated the folder for the freebies. It now has the texture brush template in it as well. So if you want to use that.
Okay, I will drop the link once more. And again, that's in the video description. It'll probably be in the pinned comment later. Definitely check those out.
Does anybody want me to run through just making the brushes one more time so that you can see? So it's cemented in your memory. You're sure?
I'm making.
Okay. So the first one we'll do is a texture brush. Let's import another photo. We'll go back to that same one that we used earlier because we made this one. Let's make that one in the middle. Oh, I've still got my texture layers open. Okay. Let's turn these off. Right, and then we're going to use curves just to brighten it a little bit. And then copy the canvas. Go into the texture brush and go to grain. Edit, import, paste. Okay, and now we can see that the black is, we actually want that to be white. So now everything that's black isn't going to be made into a pattern, and maybe we should make it a little bit bigger. Cool. Done.
Very cool. And so that's with the template, which is super easy. You don't have to adjust any of the dials.
Yeah. And then this is what it looks like when you paint with it.
Ooh, so good.
Looks good. Yeah.
Very impressed with your scanner too.
And then we'll make another stamp brush. So let's insert a photo, and we'll make one from this page. Let's make this one here. Okay, then we're going to use freehand select to select out anything we don't want. Invert and clear, and then we're going to go to curves, make it a little bit brighter, copy canvas, go to the stamp brush, edit, import, paste. Let's see which orientation we like. Maybe that one. And done. Instant.
Amazing.
Cool.
What kind of scanner do you use?
It's called Epson Perfection V800.
I'm going to type that in the chat too.
I don't even know if they make it anymore. It's not a young scanner.
Okay. But it
Yeah.
it really picked up a lot of that texture.
Yeah. I used to have another Epson scanner. It was like a Epson budget super scan or something like that, and it was super cheap. It was less than $100, and the scan quality was absolute garbage. So a little while ago I thought, okay, let's get a better scanner. So
Yeah.
I got the Perfection V800.
Well, I am very impressed with the size and quality of those scans. And I wanted to shout out the two previous sessions that we've done. The first one was just kind of like a beginner's tips and tricks introduction to the interface and how to make basic brushes. And then the second one, we got into making watercolor and oil paint brushes and a lot more of the nitty gritty of the brush studio. So we didn't dive super deep into all of those settings in this session because we have gone through a lot of that in the first two. But you can take the stamps and the shapes that you paint here and use those as the shape source to make those other kinds of brushes as well. You're not limited to just stamps with these images.
Yeah. Hopefully today we showed you how you can grab real life images and use them for making brushes.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to play because and this isn't just limited to watercolor. You can do this with oil pastels, any medium that you want. Just play around and make marks.
Yeah.
All right. So that is it from us. If you have questions, if you're watching later, or if you go back and do this and you have questions, post them in the comments below and we will get back to them. And if you enjoyed this live and you want to catch a future one, the best way to find out is probably via Instagram if you use it. I have both of our handles linked in the description. So just following to get that notification there, or sign up for our newsletters because I usually email out. Or actually, I lied. The very best way to find out when we're going live is to turn on notifications and subscribe to the channel because that will send a push notification when we're actually live. So that's probably the easiest way to find out.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will see you in the next one.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.